This episode includes negative depictions and simplified stereotypes of people or cultures. These stereotypes were wrong then and are wrong now. Rather than ignoring parts of the park's history, we want to acknowledge its harmful impact and learn from it and spark conversation to create a more inclusive future together.
Sent from Disneyland, history in our hand. So much to say about yesterday and the decades we have spanned. Postcards from the park, this journey will embark. See what has changed and what remains on Sent from Disneyland. Sent from Disneyland.
Welcome to the Sent from Disneyland podcast.
Here age relives fond memories of the past.
If it's your first time joining us, welcome. On this podcast, we'll take a journey into the past and explore Disneyland, Disneyland history, and more, with mementos, snapshots, souvenirs, and postcards sent from Disneyland, from 1955 to the present. Let's start by thanking my patrons from Patreon.com. You can join in at any level to support the show and receive snail mail from my trips to Disneyland and from my desk, plus some sneak peeks and bonus content. Special thanks to Random Olive, the first patron to this podcast, and to the rest of the e-ticket patrons, Tania, Eric Daniels, Monica Seitz Vega, Scott Cagle, Russ Romano, Michael and Christina Cross, and Sheila Harry. C-ticket patrons Serious Inquiries Only, Debbie Weinstein, Jennifer Schneep, Angela Reynolds, Grace Coate, Patty Wolin, and Ben and Noel Bruning. B-ticket patron Joshua Bell, and to the A-ticket patrons Elise Sharp, Zealot Infinity, Alexis Robles, Angel DeBlock, and the Beyond the Railroad podcast. I am your host, your post-host Clocky, and today we have 2 postcards sent from Disneyland. The front of our first postcard has the entrance to Frontierland. On the left, you can see some guests looking at one of the swans, and through the Frontierland gates, you can see the Davy Crockett Frontier Arcade. On the back, it reads, "Entrance to Frontierland. The saga of the West is relived in Frontierland, where the Davy Crockett Museum, stagecoaches, Western sheriffs, cowboys, and Indians set the stage for this Disneyland area." It's postmarked March 27, 1958, with a Seal Beach cancel and a 2-cent red Jefferson postage stamp, Scott number 1033. I assume they visit the park on Monday, March 24, 1958, when park hours were from 10 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. The weather was a high of 66 and a low of 51, with a trace amount of precipitation. Park attendance that day was 3,028. It's addressed to Miss Virginia McPherson of Portland, Oregon. It reads, March 27th, 1958. Dear Virginia, well, here I am in Seal Beach, California, with Sharon Pavlin. We're staying at her brother's. It's been nice up here until today, but the sun is trying to shine a little. Went to Disneyland and Sharon and I were made pilots on the Mark Twain, and Knott's Berry Farm Tuesday, went shopping Wednesday, saw a picture being made at Columbia last night. We'll be starting for home Saturday noon. See you sometime. Love, Edith. This weekend, I'm attending a friend's bachelor party weekend at Disneyland. We're celebrating there for a few reasons, including that our friend was a cast member at the park, working the Davy Crockett Explorer canoes. So this week, we'll take a little trip down the rivers of America in a canoe. The canoes were added to Disneyland on July 4th, 1956. Originally called the Indian War Canoes, they were part of the Indian Village on the west side of the Rivers of America. They opened as a D-ticket attraction, the newest ticket level added to the park in 1956. The 35-foot-long canoes take about 12 minutes to get around all of Tom Sawyer Island. They were built by the Old Town Canoe Company in Old Town, Maine. They were made with a sponson, an air chamber under the hull to give the canoes extra buoyancy, and a small battery and motor. The batteries and motors were removed quickly after it was discovered that recharging the batteries took too long, and the motor and battery just added extra weight to the canoes, making it harder for the paddlers to row. Since then, the canoes have always been powered by guests and the cast member at the front and the cast member at the back of the boat. Keeping with the theme of the attraction, cast members were Native Americans taking guests on a tour of the river. Looking at a 1956 map, the canoes are depicted on the map, although there is no listing of any attractions for any of the lands. And they are first listed in the 1960s map when Disneyland maps began listing each attraction in each land. Looking at some old photos, the canoe dock would require guests and cast members to row backwards before starting their journey. This has since changed to a dock that allows for one-way traffic for cast members to cast off from the dock, gaining speed from pulling the boat away from the dock rather than just paddling out. Add some flair to your mail by checking out stamps at Enfield Post. You can explore different stamp options on our Etsy site, grab some great deals by following the EP Sunday Sales on Instagram, or create something special and have her design a stamp array for your invitation or celebration. You can head over to enfieldpost.com and explore all the different vintage postage stamps you can use on your next card or letter. That's ENFIELDPOST on Instagram and enfieldpost.com for your wedding and vintage postage needs. Enfield Post is the official postage stamp sponsor of the Sent from Disneyland podcast. The front of our next postcard has a raft heading towards Tom Sawyer Island. If you look closely, you can see the top of the Matterhorn. On the back it reads, Tom Sawyer's Island. Log rafts transport fun-seeking youngsters of all ages to Tom Sawyer's Island in Frontierland, where fishing, climbing, and exploring can be enjoyed. It's postmarked June 6, 1970, with an Anaheim cancel and a 5-cent blue George Washington postage stamp, Scott number 1283. I assume they visited the park on Thursday, June 4th, 1970, and Friday, June 5th, 1970, when park hours were from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. both days. The weather was a high of 72 and a low of 60 and 61, respectively. It's addressed to Mrs. T.O. Ellingham of Yakima, Washington. It reads, Dear Mom, we've done Disneyland, 2 whole days there, and saw and rode everything that was open. The kids loved this Tom Sawyer's Island, complete with caves, Indians, and a fort. The weather has been cool for 2 days. We go to San Diego early tomorrow. Love, Nancy. Just before the closure of the Indian Village, the canoes received a new name. Now, the Davy Crockett Explorer canoes were ready to be part of the newest land, Bear Country. The canoes remained a D-ticket attraction and were described on maps as Davy Crockett Explorer canoes, closed at dusk. Paddle your own canoe on the rivers of America with an Explorer Scout. Later, the canoes were moved to another land as Bear Country became Critter Country in 1989. There were rumors of the canoes leaving with the keelboats in the late 90s, but they are still at the park today. They are getting ready to be part of a new land next month as Critter Country becomes Bayou Country, making them the only attraction to not move but have been in 4 different lands of Disneyland. The 20-person canoes run daily during busy summer months and weekends most of the year, weather permitting, until dusk. My incoming postcard is sponsored by the Art Throwdown. Art Throwdown, or ATD, is a craft hour on Instagram, starting at 9 p.m. Eastern or 6 Pacific. Art Throwdown is a wonderful community of artists who love to share their craft, from creating sticker postcards and coloring techniques to intricate paper cutting and unique crafting. It's always a treat to watch a show and occasionally get some one-of-a-kind postcards from the group. Each host brings something a little different to each show. I'll list some of the regular hosts, or you can follow Russ Romano 2021 on Instagram. The front of my incoming postcard has 2 images of birds. One, an adult female non-breeding rose-breasted grosbeak, and an adult male breeding rose-breasted grosbeak. It's postmarked October 1st, 2024, World Postcard Day, with a Canadian cancel and 2 postage stamps, one with 2 otters and another with 3 geese. It reads, October 1st, 2024, Happy World Postcard Day, 8 degrees Celsius. Hello, Clocky. This is Pascal, your neighbor from Canada. Unfortunately, I've never had the chance to visit a Disney resort. It's on my to-do list. My nephew, who turned 26 this summer, went to Disney World for his birthday with few friends. He said that he didn't grow old on his birthday. He rather fell back into childhood. Take care, Pascal. Thank you so much for the postcard. I'm also looking forward to going to the park with a few friends. And although we won't be celebrating a birthday, we will definitely act like kids, going around the park and having a great time. There's something magical about going to Disney parks with friends and having a silly, goofy time. Thanks for listening to Sent from Disneyland. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and tell your friends. It would also help to leave a 5-star rating and comment on whatever podcast platform you use. If you'd like to support the show financially, please check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/sentfromdisneyland. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Sent from Disneyland or my website, sentfromdisneyland.com. For questions and comments, send me a postcard addressed to Sent from Disneyland, P.O. Box 44, Hood, California, 95639. This podcast is not affiliated with Disney, the United States Postal Service, or any post office or Disney-related properties. Opinions expressed on this podcast belong to the host and guests of the Set from Disneyland podcast. This podcast is produced and edited by Clocky McDowell, website designed by Misty McDowell, theme song was written and performed by Noah Sunday Lefkowitz. Take it away, Noah.